Hi, Miss Elkins here. Here to talk to you today about dividing with decimals. When you're dividing with decimals, there is some certain procedures that you need to follow. First of all, let's talk about this equation here. It says 4 and 32 hundredths divided by 3 and 6 tenths. So here we go. This equation right here cannot be changed around. 3 and 6 tenths divided by 4 and 32 hundredths is not the same. You can only do division in one way. The first number is your dividend. The second number is your divisor. When you're doing long division, your dividend has to go inside. That first number has to go inside the long division symbol, and the second number, the divisor, has to go outside of the long division symbol. I see this mistake made so often. People try to divide backwards and it won't work. You won't get the right answer. So I want to make sure that you always follow that rule first. And then let's talk about what happens with decimals. When you're dividing with decimals, if you'll notice, this number has a decimal in it, 3 and 6 tenths. I don't know about you, but I didn't learn my 6 tenths in my multiplication facts. I don't know any or all of my 6 tenths. It's not really possible to divide by a decimal. So what we do is we make the divisor, and you can write this down to help you remember. Hopefully you have paper already because this is notes. You make the divisor, that's the second number, an integer, which means it's a whole number without a decimal, by multiplying both numbers by a power of 10. Take just a minute to write that down. Make the divisor an integer by multiplying both numbers by a power of 10. Power of 10 is simply moving the decimal place over and out of the way. Guess what? When you move the decimal over in both of the numbers, your answer will still be the same. We'll talk about that for just a minute. Okay? One thing you have to know is you cannot have a decimal in your divisor. You can have a decimal on the inside, but not in the divisor. Okay, so if you look at this example, 3 and 6 tenths has been changed to 36. 4 and 32 hundredths has been changed to 43 and 2 tenths. Now we put the dividend inside and the divisor outside, and the divisor is now a whole number and not a decimal. So then we just divide like we normally would do. 36 doesn't go into 4. I sometimes put a 0 placeholder there, but you don't have to. 36 will go into 43 one time. And then you multiply 1 times 36 and subtract and get 7. And bring down that 2. And 36 will go into 72 twice evenly, and you're done. Okay? So let's do a couple of examples to help you with your practice work today. This is example 5. 12 divided by 1 and 6 tenths. So what I want to do first is I want to put 12 inside, because this is the first number. It always goes inside. I want to put 1 and 6 tenths outside, because it's the second number. It's the divisor. Okay? So, but I cannot divide by 1 and 6 tenths. So I must move that decimal over one place. But if I do it on the outside, I must also do it on the inside. And since there's nothing there, I'll have to use a 0 placeholder. Now, it's 120 divided by 16. Guess what? We're going to get the same answer, even though it's been upgraded. All right, so 16 will go into 120 7 times. 7 times 16 is 112. And I didn't know that. I had to guess and check first. Guys, with division, you don't know the answer. You just have to guess and check. Use a reasonable amount. Estimate. Double check. Make sure that you show all your work, all right? So 120 minus 112 is 8. I'm in 6th grade. I no longer am allowed to have remainders, so I must add another 0 and bring that down. And 16, oh, but don't forget your decimal is right here in both places, so you must move that decimal up to the top, right there in the same place. Place value is everything, guys. 16 goes into 80 5 times, because 5 times 16 is 80, and I'm done. 12 divided by 1 6/10 is 7 5/10. Now, the great thing about division is you can always go back and check your answer. Let's double check that. Let's try 7 5/10 times 1 6/10. See if we get 12. 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 7 is 42, plus 5 is 4, plus 3 is 45. I got ahead of myself. 0 placeholder. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 7 is 7. That's 0. That's 0. That's, oh, what do you know? 2 decimal places in my problem. 2 decimal places in my answer. I know my answer is right. 12 divided by 1 6/10 is 7 5/10. Another way you can do this is by estimating. Sometimes I will round my numbers and say, what is 12 divided by 2? Oh, it equals 6. I just rounded 1 6/10 to 2 to see if my answers make sense. And my answer does make sense, because 6 and 7 1/2 are pretty close together. All right. Let's do another example. On this particular example, there are 2 decimal places in the divisor, which means I have to move both numbers 2 decimal places. So here we go. The dividend goes inside. 1, 2, 9, 5. And the divisor goes outside. 1, 2, 5. Notice I took away the decimals because I had to move both of them 2 places. All right, so still do division, long division, the same way you always have. 125 doesn't go into 1. 125 doesn't go into 12. 125 does go into 129 one time. So then we'll multiply 1 times 125, and then we'll subtract. 9 minus 5 is 4. Bring down that 5. 125 doesn't go into 45, but we brought down a number, so now we must put a 0 up top. Remember, the decimal is on the end of this number, and now I can add zeros after it, as many as I want, and I don't change the value. So now I have to bring down another 0. This step right here is one a lot of people mess up on. They just keep going and put that 0 in there. Moving on, so 125 going into 450. I know that 125 times 3 is 375. That's as close as I'm going to get. And then I subtract, and I'm going to get 5 and 7. And then I'm going to bring down another 0. And I also know that 125 will go into 750 6 times evenly, because 125 times 6 is 750. And again, I didn't know this to begin with. I did some guessing and checking so that I could do this video without a lot of extra work. But you can find this answer yourself by guessing and checking. I don't know how many times 125 will go into 750. I will check. I think it'll probably go in there 6 times, because 6 times 1 is 6, and that's 750. So I did this number. I tried 6. 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 2 is 12. Plus 3 is 15. 6 times 1 is 6. Oh, and it came out evenly. So guessing and checking is always necessary with division. You don't just know the answer. It's different from when you were younger and you just had to know the answer. Now we're finding things out. We're investigating. We're double checking. We're guessing and checking. So 12 and 95 hundredths divided by 1 and 25 hundredths is 10 and 36 hundredths. I hope you wrote these examples down. I also hope that you realize when I talked about estimating, if you round 1295 to the nearest whole, it's 13. If you round 1 and 25 hundredths to the nearest whole, it would be 1. So this would be like 13 divided by 1. And that would be 13. Does my answer 10 and 36 hundredths? Is 10 and 36 hundredths close to 13? Yeah, so my answer makes sense. One of the things I'd like to teach you this year is to make sure your answer makes sense. I hope this has helped you. If you have any questions, please shoot me an email, and I'll be happy to help you. Don't forget, we'll have our next Google Meet on Monday at 2:30. Hope you have a great day. Talk to you soon.